Preparing for a compliance analyst interview? You've reached Candy Mentor, and this video is for you. We'll walk through 15 key questions you're likely to face. For each question, you'll see a sample answer, followed by the key points to cover. Subscribe, like, and share, and drop a topic request in the comments. Question 1. What does a compliance analyst do? A compliance analyst helps ensure the firm operates within laws, regulations, and internal policies. I would monitor transactions, review alerts, test controls, support regulatory reporting, and escalate suspicious or high-risk activity. The role is not just checking boxes. It is about understanding business activity, identifying risk early, and documenting decisions clearly. A good analyst protects the firm, clients, and market integrity while enabling the business to operate responsibly. While answering, focus on the analyst's role in preventing regulatory breaches, monitoring business activity, supporting policies, reviewing alerts, escalating issues, and helping the firm maintain a strong control environment. Question 2. Why do you want to work in compliance? I am interested in compliance because it sits at the intersection of financial markets, regulation, and ethical decision-making. I like work that requires judgment, attention to detail, and the ability to investigate patterns rather than accept information at face value. Compliance also has real business impact. Weak controls can lead to fines, client harm, and reputational damage. I want a role where my analysis helps the firm grow safely and meet regulatory expectations. In your answer, talk about your interest in regulation, risk management, financial markets, ethics, analytical work, and the importance of protecting the firm from legal, reputational, and operational risk. Question 3. How would you handle a situation where a front office employee asks you to approve something that appears questionable? I would stay professional and avoid giving approval until I understood the facts. First, I would ask for supporting details, check the relevant policy, and assess whether the request creates regulatory, conduct, or reputational risk. If it remained questionable, I would escalate to my manager or the appropriate compliance officer. I would also document the request, my review, and the rationale. Compliance must support the business, but not by weakening controls. Make sure to cover independence, fact-gathering, policy review, respectful communication, escalation channels, documentation, and the need to balance commercial urgency with regulatory and ethical obligations. Question 4. What is KYC, and why is it important? KYC means Know Your Customer. It is the process of verifying a client's identity, understanding their ownership structure, assessing their risk profile, and confirming the legitimacy of their source of funds or wealth. It matters because firms can be exposed to money laundering, sanctions breaches, fraud, or terrorist financing if they onboard clients blindly. KYC is also not a one-time task. Higher-risk clients require ongoing monitoring and periodic refreshes. Be sure to mention customer identification, beneficial ownership, risk ratings, source of funds, ongoing due diligence, AML prevention, sanction screening, and the importance of knowing who the firm is doing business with. Question 5. How would you investigate a transaction monitoring alert? I would start by understanding why the alert triggered, such as unusual size, frequency, geography, or counterparty risk. Then I would compare the activity against the customer's profile, expected behavior, historical transactions, and available KYC information. I would check for red flags, adverse media, sanctions exposure, and any linked accounts. If there is a reasonable explanation, I would document it. If not, I would escalate for further review or possible SAR consideration. While answering, focus on alert triage, customer profile review, transaction patterns, expected activity, adverse media, sanctions considerations, evidence gathering, documentation, and escalation if suspicion cannot be reasonably cleared. Question 6. What red flags might indicate money laundering? Common red flags include transactions just below reporting thresholds, funds moving quickly through accounts without a clear purpose, payments involving high-risk jurisdictions, or activity inconsistent with the customer's business. I would also watch for complex ownership structures, unexplained third-party payments, reluctance to provide documents, and repeated cash-intensive activity. A single red flag may not prove money laundering, but several together should prompt deeper review and clear documentation. In your answer, include structuring, rapid movement of funds, unusual counterparties, high-risk jurisdictions, inconsistent customer behavior, shell companies, reluctance to provide information, and activity lacking economic purpose. Question 7. What is the difference between sanctions compliance and AML compliance? Sanctions compliance focuses on ensuring the firm does not deal with prohibited individuals, entities, vessels, countries, or sectors. AML compliance focuses on detecting and preventing money laundering, terrorist financing, and other illicit financial activity. Sanctions work often involves screening clients, counterparties, and payments against lists like OFAC or UN lists. AML work is broader and behavior-based. In practice, they overlap because a suspicious transaction may also involve a sanctioned party or high-risk jurisdiction. Make sure to distinguish prohibited parties and jurisdictions from suspicious financial behavior, explain screening versus monitoring, and note that both controls often interact during onboarding and transaction review. Question 8. How do you stay updated on regulatory changes? I stay updated by following regulator websites, enforcement actions, industry alerts, internal compliance bulletins, and relevant training. I also pay attention to how new rules affect actual processes, not just the legal wording. For example, a change in beneficial ownership requirements may impact onboarding forms, system fields, client refresh cycles, and control testing. The key is converting regulatory updates into practical actions that teams can follow consistently. Be sure to mention regulator publications, internal compliance updates, industry newsletters, legal briefings, training, policy change logs, and translating regulatory developments into practical control or process changes. Question 9. Tell me about a time you had to analyze a large amount of data accurately. In a previous project, I reviewed a large spreadsheet of client records to identify missing documentation and outdated risk ratings. I first cleaned the data, removed duplicates, and reconciled key fields against source files. Then I used filters and pivot tables to prioritize higher-risk clients. I found several records needing refresh and summarized the results with clear exceptions and next steps. That experience taught me to combine speed with validation, especially in control-related work. While answering, use a structured STAR example covering the objective, data source, validation steps, tools used, checks for accuracy, findings, and how you communicated results to stakeholders. Question 10. How would you handle confidential information in a compliance role? I would treat confidential information strictly on a need-to-know basis. Compliance work can involve client documents, investigations, employee matters, and potentially suspicious activity, so careless sharing can create legal and reputational risk. I would use approved systems, avoid sending sensitive details through informal channels, lock files appropriately, and follow data retention policies. I would also be careful in conversations, because even casual comments can compromise an investigation or breach client confidentiality. In your answer, talk about need-to-know access, data protection, secure systems, avoiding informal sharing, careful documentation, regulatory confidentiality, and maintaining trust with clients and internal stakeholders. Question 11. What would you do if you discovered a potential breach of policy? I would first understand the facts and preserve relevant evidence, such as emails, approvals, logs, or transaction records. If the breach could create immediate risk, I would escalate quickly to my manager or the designated compliance escalation point. I would avoid making accusations before the review is complete. The next steps would include assessing impact, identifying root cause, documenting the issue, supporting remediation, and confirming whether any regulatory reporting or disciplinary action is required. Make sure to cover immediate containment if needed, fact gathering, evidence preservation, escalation, impact assessment, documentation, remediation, and avoiding assumptions until the review is complete. Question 12. How do you prioritize multiple compliance tasks with tight deadlines? I prioritize by risk, deadline, and potential impact. A regulatory submission or suspicious activity escalation would come before routine administrative work. I would maintain a tracker, break tasks into clear steps, and communicate early if competing deadlines could affect quality. I also distinguish urgent from important, because not every loud request carries the same regulatory risk. In compliance, speed matters, but incomplete or poorly documented work can create bigger problems later. Be sure to mention risk-based prioritization, regulatory deadlines, materiality, stakeholder communication, tracking tools, escalation when capacity is constrained, and maintaining quality despite time pressure. Question 13. What is a risk-based approach to compliance? A risk-based approach means applying stronger controls where the risk is higher, rather than treating every client or transaction the same. For example, a politically exposed person with complex offshore structures would require deeper due diligence than a low-risk domestic client. This approach helps compliance teams use resources efficiently while meeting regulatory expectations. It also requires ongoing review, because risk can change when client behavior, ownership, geography, or products change. While answering, focus on allocating resources according to risk level, enhance due diligence for higher-risk clients or activity, proportionate controls, continuous review, and efficient use of compliance capacity. Question 14. How would you prepare for a regulatory audit or examination? I would start by understanding the regulator's scope and information request. Then I would gather relevant policies, procedures, testing results, training records, issue logs, approvals, and sample files. Before submission, I would check completeness, consistency, and whether the evidence supports the control design described. I would coordinate with legal, compliance, operations, and business teams. During an exam, accuracy and transparency matter. If something is weak, it is better to explain remediation than hide it. In your answer, include understanding the scope, gathering evidence, testing completeness, reviewing policies, preparing issue logs, coordinating stakeholders, ensuring consistency, and being transparent with regulators. Question 15. Why should we hire you as a compliance analyst? You should hire me because I bring the right combination of analytical discipline, integrity, and communication skills. I am comfortable reviewing details, questioning inconsistencies, and documenting conclusions clearly. At the same time, I understand compliance is a business-facing function, so I would aim to be practical, responsive, and firm when needed. I am motivated by work that protects the firm and clients, and I would bring a careful, risk-aware mindset from day one. Make sure to connect your analytical ability, attention to detail, integrity, communication skills, regulatory interest, judgment, and ability to work with business teams while maintaining independence. If you are still with us, congratulations, you are much ahead of the rest and serious about preparing for your interview. We hope we were able to add value to your preparation and create some helpful content. Do not forget to like and share this video. Your small act can do great things for us.